Hello and welcome to the 51% here on France 24, a show about women reshaping our world. I'm Erin Ogunkeye, stepping in for Annette Young, coming up in this edition. It's a consequence of the gender pay gap here in France. Women technically started working for free from November 6th, according to EU statistics. That's a reflection of the fact that men make an average of 15% more than women. Recent years have brought undeniable progress in tackling gender gaps in education systems worldwide, but much progress remains to be made, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. We'll hear from Fabricia Devignes, Program Manager at UNESCO's Gender at the Center initiative, for more on that in a few minutes. And an exploration of color, the strange beauty of the body, and fashion as well. The Maison Européenne de la Photographie here in France puts the work of Dutch artist Vivian Sassin in the spotlight, exhibiting some 200 works spanning her 3-decade-long career. Well, imagine working for free for 2 months of every year. Well, taking the gender pay gap into account, that is reality for French women who technically began working without pay this past November the 6th. Female workers in France are paid on average just over 15% less than their male counterparts. That gap is nearly 3 percentage points higher than the European average. James Vecina takes a closer look.
It all boils down to statistics. By crunching numbers relating to salary differences within the European Union, women in France are found to be paid on average 15.2% less than men. To put this better into perspective, when levelling their hourly pay with that of men's, women in France are paid their entire annual salary by the 6th of November, meaning that for the rest of the year, they're working for free.
France is quite a bit behind other European countries. We're about 2 to 3% below the EU average.
The latest figures are based on salaries from 2021. For 35 hours of work, men earn on average a net salary of €2,689, while women receive just €2,292. A difference that's in large part due to the different jobs in which men and women work, as well as their position within the hierarchy. And when comparing men and women's salaries on a same job and for the same number of hours, there's a 4.3% gap, mainly due to age difference. For under 25-year-olds, it stands at around 5%, and that increases to 15% and 28% for those over 60. Meanwhile, mothers remain particularly affected by the pay gap. The difference increases with the number of children they have.
UNESCO this year is celebrating the 60-year anniversary of its International Institute for Educational Planning. The IIEP then helps member states design and implement policies that are geared towards improving education systems worldwide and also addressing the challenges that they face, including armed conflict, climate change, and, of course, gender equality. Well, on set with me now is Fabricia Devignes, Gender Program Manager at the Center Initiative for IIEP UNESCO in Dakar, Senegal. Fabricia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Erin.
So IIEP promotes a gender transformative approach, as you call it, as a path towards gender equality. What is it, and how is it different than other approaches that take, gender inequality into account?
Gender transformative approaches are the ones that foster a critical examination of inequalities, gender norms, gender dynamics. And for education, it means that you have to integrate gender equality really in all the education systems. And this is what we do through the Gender at the Center initiative. It was launched in 2019 during the G7 French presidency, and it basically aims to put gender at the core of education system, African education systems. And we do that together with different partners. And that's why it's different from other approaches, because what we do is really to focus on system-wide transformation. So we work with governments, with civil society organizations, with development partners, and all together we work at all levels of the education systems, from policies to community engagement through pedagogies.
So we're going to get to some of the progress that's been made, but before we get there, I want to ask you, what do you think are some of the challenges that are facing girls specifically in the school systems that you have experience working in?
Yeah, it depends on the level of the school, but I would say that the very challenges are really at the secondary level, when adolescents, girls, face early marriages, pregnancies, gender-based violence, and so on. The first reason, I think, for not getting, girls in school is poverty, of course, when I talk about Africa. And also we have geographical isolation, and we have traditional roles, that impede, women and girls from going to school. So those are, the many reasons, that prevents girls from exceeding schools and also achieving their outcomes.
But it's not all negative, of course. There has been progress on achieving better gender equity in schools, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, including in the context of projects that you've worked on. What are some of the improvements that you've seen?
Yeah, we saw a lot of improvements in terms of primary school access to primary school, girls' access to primary school. And I can say that through our project and initiative, we saw many successes in terms of integrating gender equality in policies, in reforms, in education reforms, but also developing the capacity of ministries of education and other actors, and some actors at the decentralized level as well, because it's important also to translate, those national policies and strategies into concrete action plans on the ground. And so we see that in Nigeria, we see that in Sierra Leone or other countries with whom we work. So we saw that, those results at the macro level, but we saw also, this community engagement. So 2 million people have been sensitized to gender equality, to gender norms, and through TV communication, through sensitization campaigns. So we see a lot of very interesting initial results, and effects of this initiative, and we are aiming to continue this work with the governments and with the civil society organizations and with all the stakeholders, that are part of this initiative.
Fabricia, we just have a few seconds left, but I do want to ask you quickly that we have talked about progress, but sub-Saharan Africa, of course, is the region furthest from parity. What do you think, in a nutshell, if possible, is preventing more improvement?
I think that political willingness and political leadership is key to have really those strategies and those girls and boys, getting to school and achieving and having the same opportunities and same chances and same rights. So I think that this is key, and partnership is key also, making the parents, the civil society organizations, the governments, making all those people working together. I think that this is really key so that girls get to school and thrive in schools.
We'll finish then with those words of encouragement. I'd like to finish on a positive or optimistic note. Fabricia Devignes, Gender Program Manager at the Center Initiative for IIP UNESCO. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it is the first major retrospective in Paris of one of the fashion industry's most sought-after photographers. The Maison Européenne de la Photographie here in Paris is showcasing the 3-decade-long career of Dutch photographer and artist Vivian Sassen. The Phosphor exhibit, as it's called, brings together 200 of her works, including photographs, collages, paintings, and videos.
On this catwalk, it's not models, but colours that parade down it. Vivian Sassin knows how to set a scene. She's been doing so for the biggest fashion brands for 30 years, as well as in her artwork. Her use of bright colours and subtle interplay with light and shadow is her trademark.
Often they say that photographers are painting with light, but I think I'm much more interested in the shadows instead of the light. Of course you need light to make pictures, but that's what's hidden in the shadows is often much more interesting or exciting.
Vivian Sassin has often photographed black skin in her work. a tendency that has sometimes brought her charges of cultural appropriation and stereotyping. She says her inspiration stems from her young childhood spent on the African continent.
When I was young, the whole image of Africa was either black and white pictures, documentary shots, or it was the beautiful National Geographic kind of photography. But I had these memories of my own childhood in Kenya, which were so different, and I couldn't see that anywhere. So I tried to just change that image, just slightly.
The body is an obsession for this one-time model, and through her exquisite corpses, she deconstructs the image of women.
Someone said, yeah, but this can't be a self-portrait, is it? And I said, well, actually it is. It is about expressing a kind of force from within, which is unapologetic, and maybe not how, as women, we are raised as, trying to, you should behave and be kind, etc. And I think this is more like kind of a massive role. And sometimes we just want to stick out our tongue and be fierce and ferocious.
The retrospective showcases 200 photographs and collages, works that are sometimes uncomfortable, but provide an insight into the eye of a photographer in a perpetual search for the aesthetic.
Well, that's all we have for you for this edition, but we love to hear from you, of course, so do feel free to send your suggestions for the 51% to our Twitter, Instagram, or X pages. Until our next show then, bye for now.